The wind whipped across the cracked asphalt of Dusty's diner, a rundown stop off Highway 17 where truckers, drifters, and locals crossed paths. Inside, the smell of burnt coffee and fried onions hung heavy, and the jukebox played a faded country tune. At a corner booth, 16-year-old Mia Larson sat across from her father, Jack, a 52-year-old Army veteran who'd lost his sight to a roadside bomb in Iraq. Jack's cane rested against the table, his hands steady as he sipped his coffee, his face etched with the quiet strength of a man who'd survived more than most. Mia, with her braided hair and worn sneakers, watched him closely, always ready to guide him through a world he could no longer see. Outside, the roar of motorcycles shattered the diner's hum. A half-dozen bikers, their leather vests patched with skulls and flames, pulled into the lot, their engines snarling before cutting off. They swaggered inside, their boots thumping, their laughter loud and mean. The leader, a burly man named Vince with a graying beard and a scar across his cheek, scanned the room like he owned it. His eyes landed on Mia and Jack. In a smirk curled his lips. Trouble had found its mark. Vince slid into the booth next to theirs, his crew crowding around, their presence sucking the air from the room. "Hey, kid," Vince called to Mia, his voice dripping with mockery. "What's with the old man? He too cheap for glasses? Or just too drunk to see his crew laughed?" A harsh, guttural sound that made Mia's stomach twist. Jack's hand tightened on his cane, but he stayed silent, his face unreadable. Mia's cheeks flushed, her fists clenching under the table. "He's blind," she said quietly, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "Leave us alone." "Blind?" Vince leaned closer, his breath sour with beer. "Bet he's faking it. Probably scamming disability checks while you play nursemaid." "Pathetic." The bikers hooted, one slamming a fist on the table, rattling Mia's soda can. The diner's other patrons, truckers, a waitress, a couple of teens looked away, their eyes fixed on their plates. No one wanted to tangle with Vince's crew. Mia felt the weight of their stares, their silence like a cage closing in. Jack reached for her hand, his voice low. "Mia, let it go." But she couldn't. Not this time. Vince wasn't done. He grabbed Jack's cane, twirling it like a toy. "What's this? A prop? Come on, old man. Give us a show. Dance or something." The bikers roared, and Mia's heart pounded as she saw her father's jaw tighten, his dignity under siege. She stood, barely 5 feet tall, her voice shaking but clear. "Give it back. Now." Vince laughed, tossing the cane to one of his buddies. "Or what? Kid, you gonna cry to daddy?" He leaned in, his face inches from hers. "You're out of your league, sweetheart." The diner felt like a pressure cooker, the air thick with cruelty and cowardice. The waitress hovered near the counter, wringing her hands, while a trucker muttered about troublemakers but stayed seated. Mia's eyes burned with tears she refused to let fall. Her father had fought for his country, lost his sight, his career, and now these men were stripping away what little he had left. The bikers' taunts grew louder, their words a blur of insults about Jack's service, his blindness, Mia's loyalty. It was a public execution of their pride, and no one was stopping it. Then Mia's hand slipped into her pocket, closing around her phone. Her eyes locked onto Vince, a spark of defiance igniting. She stepped back, raising the phone to her ear, her voice cutting through the noise. "Uncle Mike, it's Mia. We're at Dusty's diner. Some guys are harassing Dad. They took his cane. Can you come?" The bikers froze, their laughter faltering. Vince's smirk wavered. "Who's she calling?" one of them muttered. Mia didn't blink, her gaze boring into Vince. "You'll find out," she said, her voice steel. Minutes ticked by, the tension coiling tighter. Vince tried to laugh it off, tossing the cane back to Jack with a sneer. "Whatever. Kid, we're just having fun." But his eyes darted to the window. Uneasy, the other bikers shifted, their bravado cracking. Mia stayed on the phone, her voice low, relaying details. Jack sat straighter, his hand finding Mia's arm, a silent signal of trust. The diner's patrons watched, sensing a shift, their whispers growing curious. The teens at the counter started filming, their phones catching the bikers' nervous glances. Then, the wail of sirens pierced the air. Red and blue lights flashed through the diner's windows as two police cars screeched into the lot. Gravel sprang. The bikers stiffened, Vince's face paling. Mia lowered her phone, her expression fierce. "That's my uncle," she said, pointing to the lead car. "Chief of Police, Michael Larson." The diner erupted in gasps, heads swiveling to the door as a tall man in a crisp uniform strode in, his badge gleaming. Chief Larson's eyes found Mia, then Jack, then zeroed in on Vince with the precision of a hawk. "Which one of you thought it was smart to mess with my family?" Chief Larson's voice was calm, but it carried the weight of authority. Vince opened his mouth, but no words came. His crew backed up, their bravado evaporating. The chief stepped closer, his gaze sweeping the group. "You took a blind veteran's cane, mocked his service, harassed his daughter," he gestured to the teens' phones. "And you did it in front of cameras. Real genius move." The diner's mood flipped, the patrons' silence turning to murmurs of support. The waitress, emboldened, spoke up. "They were awful to that girl and her dad. I saw it all." A trucker nodded. "Bunch of bullies." Vince's face twisted, his voice desperate. "We didn't mean nothing by it, just a joke." But Chief Larson wasn't buying it. He signaled his officers, who moved in, cuffs ready. "You're under arrest for harassment and theft," he said, nodding to the cane. "And I'm betting those cameras caught enough to make it stick." As the bikers were led out, heads bowed, the diner broke into applause. Mia rushed to her father, hugging him tightly. Jack's voice was thick with emotion. "You didn't have to do that." "Mia," she smiled, tears finally falling. "Yeah, I did, Dad. For you." Chief Larson joined them, his stern face softening. "You okay?" "Jack," he asked. Jack nodded, gripping his cane. Thanks to her, the teens posted their videos online, and by nightfall, the story was everywhere. Hashtags like "Watch Protect Mia" and "Honor Veterans" trended, with thousands praising Mia's courage and condemning the bikers' cruelty. The local news ran a segment, interviewing Jack, who spoke quietly about his service and his pride in Mia. Vince and his crew faced charges, their tough guy image shattered. The diner started a fundraiser for veterans, and Mia was invited to speak at a community rally, her shy voice carrying a powerful message. No one gets to make you feel small. Weeks later, Mia and Jack returned to Dusty's, greeted with smiles and free coffee. The jukebox played a new song, and the air felt lighter. Jack reached for Mia's hand, his voice soft. "You're my eyes, kid. Always have been." Mia squeezed his hand, her heart full. The world had seen their strength, but more importantly, they'd seen it in each other. What does it say when a child must fight for her father's dignity? When a community's silence turns to action? Maybe it's a call to stand up, to speak out, to protect those who've given everything. If Mia's courage inspires you, share her story. Let's remind the world respect isn't optional, it's owed. The end.